People have told stories of the strange and supernatural for centuries. Tales of the restless dead return to haunt the living. Whispers of damned souls doing the devil's bidding on Earth. Rumors of inhuman things that still hunt in the old forests, untouched by the glare of modern life. There may be more to these stories than you could ever imagine. Join us tonight as we delve into the deeper truth inside these mysteries.
Hello, how the devil are you all? Right, apologies for the long time no see, but work issues, etc., which we have covered in the past, and there is ways you can help us around that, and we maybe go into some of that later in the show.
Yeah, it has been a fair bit of time now. It's got to be knocking on three weeks, maybe more. So yeah, been a bit of a long one, bit of a long stint without us, and like I said, we apologise, but unfortunately, not a huge amount we can do in regards to working hours, is there?
No. Okay, so I thought I'd cover, since I've been doing a lot of walking in the Peak District myself, and I'm planning to stay there, I thought I'd look at Bigfoot cases from the region. Alright. And this account is one that I've covered briefly in the past and not really gone into massive depth in it, so I thought I'd choose that one first, just to give you an example of the phenomenon, if you will, of Bigfoot in the UK. Because a lot of people think like Bigfoot is like an American thing. Not people that listen to this show, because they'll probably be a bit more savvy, but when you talk to people and that, they say, oh yeah, well, it might exist in America, but it don't exist here, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Even though the accounts, we've mentioned before, these accounts of Dogman, what they call the dog-headed man, go right back to medieval times and before. So they've always been here, these strange creatures. It's just stiff upper lip Britain and all the rest of it. We don't talk about this shit.
No.
You know, and I think that's a lot of the issue. I mean, this account that I'm going to give you now is reported in a Victorian magazine by an American. So that gives you some sort of...
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
Do you know what I mean? I know that it did actually make the papers at the time, but again, this report itself actually comes from an American who just happened to be there and pick up on the story. Okay, so his name was Joe Adam, and he was, this account is actually from 1890, but it was wrote up in his version of events in 1904. So
a few years after.
Do you see what I mean? This is the sort of period we're going back to, just for this one account. And that's what I say about these people who say, nah, it don't exist and all that. Anyway, I'll get into the account. So, in October of 1904, okay, this is written by, like I say, Joe Adam, describes how people who lived in the village of Derbyshire, this was Bakewell, had to deal with a so-called wild man of the woods. It was an extraordinary being, as they put it, which apparently wanted to live in a primitive way. Alright. So, travelling by train to Bakewell is a delight, as you wander through some of the most beautiful scenery in England has to offer. When emerging at the station, you come upon a small bridge which crosses the railway line, and there's some extensive grassy slopes. These are the golf links skirting the length of the railway and stretching for miles to Matlock. And in dense woodland known locally as Wormswood, some of the recesses which are well nigh inaccessible unless you stick to the path that runs through the woods, and trying to walk off this path into the undergrowth or bracken is so thick that it's impossible to penetrate. There are also several old stone quarries in the woods, which are in and around the grounds, and obviously these places are more clear than the other places, just broken up by the odd boulders. On the outskirts of the woods, you can view the plateau or the slopes of the hills, the reservoir which supplies the village's water. This opening paragraph, right? I'm going to read it verbatim, but I'm going to ad-lib because there's already a few things in here that people will be picking up on that are into the subject of Bigfoot. Okay, so you've got quarries. You know, how many reports do we get from in and around quarries? A15, A18, up here, Goxall way on, Thornton Abbey way on. This black cat seen in the quarry there, and black cat. No, this this almost sheer-sided slopes that he talks about. This seems to be the habitat of these creatures, and I think it's for reason. I think it's for evasion, right?
Yeah,
it's
makes
the
sense.
easiest way for them to escape us is to go vertical because we cannot follow. If they just go up like Bempton Cliffs in Wolflands, Paul Sinclair's, which we'll cover on another episode because I'm going to go into a bit more detail on that. But again, Bempton Cliffs, sheer cliffs, and these things have been seen going up and down, traversing them with ease.
Yeah,
but
not something humans can do.
No, and that's why I say they do it for an evasive reason. We'll come back to the golf links in a minute. Most people can picture what I'm talking about here. You know, you've got the rolling countryside. I don't know if you ever looked at Derbyshire, but it is rolling hills. It's heather. There is boulders every now and again, but essentially it's quite open. Not much trees, really. You get copse trees everywhere, don't you? But generally speaking, it's quite open. Farmland now. I've actually got a picture from recently when I went up Mantor, which is an Iron Age fort. And I'll put that on the group so people can see exactly where I'm talking about right now. But there was something else I was going to mention about the area. It's just got out of my head. It might come to me in a minute. Anyway, so see what you pick up on. See if you pick up on anything. When I'm talking here, if you pick up on anything, because I think you will, then obviously interject. But right now in the Victorian era, right, and certain balmy spring evenings on Fridays, some certain young ladies were enjoying the delights of the golfs on the Bakewell links. Their identities, right, are not at matter at this moment, right, because they didn't want to be identified because there was daughters of prominent residents. Now, we already know this because they were playing golf.
Yeah.
In the 1900s, women don't play golf. There's still some clubs today that don't let women play. So we are already getting a sense of who these people are just by the fact they're on the golf links.
They're doing something that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they don't want to be identified, obviously, because they are, like it says here, prominent residents. Okay, so the ladies in question were playing golf at the top of this slope, close to a wood line, when they spotted suddenly and stared in amazement towards a dense foliage, which they all screamed in alarm, turned about and run as fast as they could down the slope. Whatever could have happened to these young ladies and their friends to forget all modesty and run screaming like fishwives down the brew. Yeah. To the ladies' horror, from the wood line came the appearance of an extraordinary apparition. Bursting suddenly through the undergrowth came a man, ? Or something resembling a man. His clothes, if indeed he could be regarded as clothed, was the most meagre description. He was the most eccentric character, his apparel consisting solely of tattered shirt and rags, and boots in an ancient size which no longer fitted. In fact, he now seemed to be struggling to walk in them. I'm going to come back to this passage. And from under his shaggy brow his eyes glistened, as his weird being advanced and leaps and bounds in their direction. The cries he emitted were strange noises, which increased the ladies' terror hundredfold. As down the slope they fled helter-skelter, stumbling over the broken strewn ground, slipping, falling, raising against, paying little heed to the scratches or bruises they received. The only idea was to get as far away from this horrid spectre as possible. Alright, so here we've got the first description of this creature. Some of the things that stand out, well, you tell me. I mean, obviously, what stands out in that passage to you? Because it jumps out at me, and I don't know if it's just me.
To me, it's the fact that they describe it as a man. I know that sounds really stupid, but when you're obviously talking about Bigfoot and you're talking about things like that, the fact that they've put a human description to it, when this thing can clearly not do human things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
you're talking about something that's. I mean, obviously, we describe it in the UK as the wild man. But the fact that it's completely.
They amplify that point by describing it wearing clothes.
Yeah. It's human, but it's not.
But almost not wearing clothes at the same time. It's almost like they're trying to, project this human on this thing. Because what else could it be?
Exactly.
So, like they're saying, like it's got shoes that don't quite fit because of the way it was walking.
Is it wearing shoes?
Is it wearing shoes, or is it just its feet? Has it got big feet and the way it was ambling across? And again, they say here that it advanced towards it in leaps and bounds. This will come back into the story as I go, and it's interesting. So it was at this point the creature, Wildman, seemed to realise the fright it was causing and pull back its chase, and plunged back into the dark depths of the woods, still howling and grunting. Again, howling and grunting. This pulled back. Where they say it pulled back because it was causing fright. In most modern encounters, we get this pulled back situation when it's trying to remove you from the area. You know what I mean? It's like intimidating. It's like a bluff charge type thing. This could be what they're describing here. But again, it's put in terms of, again, making it more human. Okay, so, of course, the news of this exciting experience was brought to Bakewell, whence it travelled via tongue and the press far and wide over the lands. Headlines screamed, "A wild man of the woods. A real living, breathing, dancing wild man." Right. This was too much for the Bakewell residents, and the whole place was stirred to its depths, and almost the entire male, able-bodied, active population rose as one man, pressing into service a variety of weapons, and set about as a team of 60 or more. Some were blunderbusses, and they went in search of the wild man. So again, pitchforks and shotguns essentially, and they're off to find this thing. It seems the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker all joined in. They started by spreading out and beating the woods in the countryside for miles around, but alas, no wild man was flushed out or appeared. So when the evening drew near on this eventful Friday, many of the search parties gave up the search for the day. It seems that some or more of the ardent-spirited formed themselves into a small watch parties, equipped themselves with lights, crept out over the woods throughout the nocturnal hours until the next morning. Very interesting point coming up here. On returning, the only news they had to report was that they had seen a flickering light in the remote depths of the woods that moved about like will-o'-the-wisp. As they thought they hunted, the wild man might be in direct contact with the devil himself. Some of the more daring youths volunteered to pursue the mysterious lights when they next should see it. But to the great sadness, nothing tangible resulted from this quest.
Right
there, right? We're talking about 1890, and we've got a report of Bigfoot in the same woods as Will-o'-the-Wisp, which is essentially, for those who don't know, is an orb of light. Again, people familiar with this subject will know that these two things go in hand in several accounts.
So it's supernatural, do you know what I mean?
I mean, obviously people can make that assumption, but it could just be they reside in the same places. It could be loads of different things. Obviously, this you can't get away from this Bigfoot, aliens, thing as well, where this seems to be seen. There is a supernatural element to these things. But again, if you was to listen to Sasquatch Chronicles today, if you was to listen to 5 episodes, you'd probably hear somebody on there talk about seeing these strange lights. And again, this pops up in Wolflands, the Paul Sinclair documentary. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, I suggest you do. Like I said, we will go into an in-depth discussion about it at some point. It's fantastic from my point of view. But again, this pops up in there. These strange lights seen in the woods before the creature was seen. Right? again, in this, that's what they're describing, will-o'-the-wisp. There's loads of various reasons for will-o'-the-wisps in the UK. You know, from, like I say, like devil's lights. You know, this thing about this guy carrying a lantern. That's where we get that jack-o'-lantern thing from.
Yeah.
Over, you know, and then there's people who say it's just swamp gas, marsh gases, these kinds of things, which inevitably some of them will be. You know, granite. They've done studies on granite, and they know that when you basically rub two pieces of granite together, which could be, you know, underground, obviously, they do create lights. They're only temporary, but they do create light. So, you know, a lot of the will-o'-the-wisp things, there will be mundane explanations for them, but you can't separate the fact that these things are seen in the same locations. All right.
No, you
but
can't.
then you've also got the element of, because it doesn't say in here whether they saw one light or two lights. We're presuming one because of the way it's described here. But again, you get this in Bigfoot encounters. You get this eye shine. You know, this glowing eyes, that kind of thing. So again, this could be what they're seeing, but we don't know that because of the way it's written, like I say. But we can assume it's just an orb of light. But again, it's interesting. The same night as this creature was seen, this thing was seen. Okay, so on the morning, this is the Saturday, the search continued. So this is daylight now. And for the first time, the police joined in the search. As a wild man hunted happened in the woods, Superintendent Blake was seated at his office studying some documents when a small boy burst in breathless into the place, collapsed on the floor, and the only words he could utter was "wild man" before running out of breath. The inspector looked up with a professional frown, regarding the small boy as a miscreant. The later shrank before his piercing, steadfast gaze. Between his trembling lips were tickled the words again, "Wild man," and nothing more. So obviously the superintendent stayed back behind. He's not getting involved in the search. But then this little boy comes running in, basically saying that he's seen the wild man. Alright, so the superintendent smoked up and spoke softly to the boy the memorable words that uttered, "A wild man. Yes, sir, in the woods, all shirt and boots and hat, and long hair, and he dances and makes funny noises, sir." The policeman forthwith summoned his subordinates, and they conferred together, extracting as much of the intelligence from the juvenile informant as they could. The mysterious individual was not to be so easily dismissed. Obviously, because he'd been seen the day before on the golf links, so this boy,
it's more credible.
Yeah, he could be making it up, but obviously with them already knowing this and giving somewhat similar appearance as well, they believed that this was the same creature that had terrified the ladies the day before, so they decided to pursue this creature. Two policemen actually went out and joined the search. This is why the police got involved on that Saturday morning, because this boy had run in saying he'd just seen this thing again. That's why the police were... initially I don't think the police were too interested in this, but this
you can
obviously
understand it's not...
piqued the curiosity, so we say. Okay, so these two coppers saw this thing, gave chase, but there was obviously numerous obstacles that would not allow them to sprint as quick. And although the golfers exerted themselves at the utmost, they failed to overtake the fugitive or catch up with him as he scaled these slopes again. Right, this comes up again. The almost superhuman speed and scurrying through the undergrowth with ease. He climbed trees, swung himself from branch to branch, from tree to tree, with the agility of a monkey, while his pursuers looked on amazed at the creature, with a tangled mass of hair clambering swiftly through the almost impenetrable recesses of the woods. Needless to say, he outdistanced his pursuers, and the this was the male. This was actually another team of male golfers that saw this and gave pursuit. and they returned to the village to mark out what they'd seen. But again, if you look at what these guys say, these guys got a close view of him, they actually chased him, and they say that he was a tangled mass of hair. All right. They also say
they're all giving similar descriptions, aren't they? Really?
Well, these are giving more of a realistic description because they're not saying he was wearing clothes now. They're just saying he was essentially a hairy beast, swinging through the trees like a monkey. Again, he goes up these slopes that they couldn't go up themselves. He goes through bracken undergrowth that they couldn't penetrate.
Yeah.
I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen a cut through where something at least 6 feet tall was going through this bracken, brambles, nettles, all the rest of it. There's no way a person could go through there. Even in overalls and that, you'd be cut to shit.
Yeah.
And I've seen something go through that sort of undergrowth. And obviously I can't say what it was, but it's not a person.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's what they're seeing here. But again, swinging through trees, it's sounding less and less like a man. You know, it never really sounded like a man from the beginning because that wouldn't have scared the women in such a way, would it? But anyway. Okay, so that week, the wild man made repeated appearances in various parts of the Peak District. For instance, one man saw him indulging in a siesta on the banks of the river. If he noticed he was perceived, however, he would retreat to the friendly seclusion of the woods. Again, you know, this is animalistic behaviour. It was seen by a tradesman at Batewell, who was surprised by the strange creature enjoying a dip in the water. But again, the wild man betrayed the excess of modesty, which always seemed to prompt him to seek safe asylum amongst the foliage. It is very clear that this was no ordinary tramp, as he exhibited on various occasions strong inklings for water. Right? And again, many accounts, I know this is nauseum now, but many Bigfoot accounts go hand in hand with water. We don't have really aquatic apes. Well, we've got aquatic DNA, right, which no one can explain, and they don't like to talk about it. We're more aquatic than we are chimp, say, primate. And you know,
that's not spoken about very much.
You know, we don't really go into it. But these creatures, again, the scene. There's even accounts of people in like the bayou places and that in America. They actually talk about these creatures having underwater cave systems where they can swim down into a cave, and that's how they evade people. That's where they live. But again, this element of swimming, being around water, it comes up in this case, and it seems to reoccur in other cases of Bigfoot, let's say. Yeah. So it's not. This is not like an outlier in that respect. All right, so he was seen taking a dip. As soon as he was seen, he run back into the woods, essentially. But this is a bit of a leap, but the problem they had is that they kept seeing him in various rivers. They even saw him doing his ablutions in a reservoir which supplied the village, and this was too much. Because now they're thinking, well, this thing's in our water, it's contaminating our water, and it's gone too far. The town then concluded that the level of cleanliness had gone way too far, and at night his flickering lights could be discerned on the highest points. And again, this is where they think that he's made of fire, because they're seeing these lights again. Again, it could be fire lights, and it's quite possible it was. Well, I'm not sure, but the police report said they found a fire. Right. There is actually a picture, and I think Deborah Atwell's got it on their website, of this like a tent, like a teepee structure, again, which is common in Bigfoot accounts of modern day. But they found a teepee structure, and alongside that teepee structure, the police say they see evidence of a smouldering fire or a fire.
Right, but whether they did or not is...
Whether the fire was anything to do with this creature, or maybe the searchers, or I've got no idea. But maybe these creatures can make fire. It's not out of the realms of possibility. No, we were making fire 100,000 years ago. So the police obviously searched the woods during the night and day, and this is where they find this crude hut structure. And again, like it says here, they found cold ashes of a fire. I mean,
It's possible.
yeah. Although the two things, like I say, the fire might have been there prior. You've got to remember that in this time, right, when we're talking about 1900s, it was illegal to go on to the Peak District. Certain places, there was like, I can't remember when it started now, but it was probably later than this. But actually, these were made into national parks and things like that.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you weren't supposed to go onto these places. They were basically private property owned by various landlords and etc. And there was no rambling. You know, like we do now, we just go out for a hike.
Go for a walk, yeah.
That was all taboo. And I think it took 400 people. Some of them did get beaten up and arrested, but they basically turned up one morning to the Peak District and they went for a hike. 400 of them just got together, 400 blokes fucking just started walking on this land. The police were waiting for them. They'd brought in police from all other counties. They beat the shit out of a lot of them, arrested a few of them, but they couldn't stop them all.
No.
And then obviously that's when, I think it was a lady, I can't remember her name now, but she was well-to-do. She was from some wealthy family, and she started putting money in to say, look, people should be allowed to enjoy this. Because especially in this area, they've got this beautiful countryside, and you had people who weren't allowed to, they'll work all week looking at it, and weren't allowed to go on it at the weekend. They had nothing to do. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, before this, so people weren't allowed on this countryside. It's not like today. So again, the fire is interesting in that respect because people aren't allowed there. This is before people are allowed there. So what I'm saying is this thing making fire there because there's no one else there? Nowadays,
nowadays it can't.
People
get away
are everywhere.
With it.
I don't know. Obviously, it's speculation, but
Does make sense.
Right,
Logic.
and you tell us what you think, obviously. But that my estimation of it. So this crew structure was found, cold ashes, like I said. And this shanty is what they call it, was constructed by branches and bracken, which grows in great profusion of these parts. This was shelter from the wind by a wall. It was also backed up against a wall of stones. The lights had obviously been seen in this location where this hut was found. That's the reason they were looking there.
Yeah.
But since then, fires had not been noticed much further in the woods, indicating that the wildman had shifted his quarters to the thickest parts. Again, it's an assumption on their part that because they can't see the fires anymore, he must have gone deeper into the woods.
But again, that does make sense on the basis that they're getting away from where people can get to them.
Again, the most rigid searches, however, failed to locate either man or his camp in the first week, and so, in spite of everything, the wild one was never captured. Alright, so that's essentially the story in a nutshell, and then he just disappears into the mists of times. He's never seen again. But
again, you say he's never seen again. That doesn't necessarily mean he's never seen again.
In that,
like you said there, that's an American that's wrote the piece, and as a general rule, British don't talk about stuff like that.
In that sort of period that when this was going on, that's when it the police search, obviously that finished at some point.
Yeah.
And he never made a nuisance of himself anymore, so they just stopped looking essentially. But left him to his own thing. But I don't know. Would you, if you had a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being tramp and 10 being wild man, I mean, where would you, given what you just heard, where would you put that on that scale?
Back at that time period?
Well, any time period.
Nowadays, I would say 50-50. Back then, probably leaning more towards a wild man than a tramp, purely on the basis that Victorian England was a horrible fucking place to live. And you go back to things like the workhouses and things like that. But in Victorian England, if you were poor and had no money and you didn't live in the city, you were going to die. You know, you didn't get countryside hobos. It just didn't exist because there was nothing. You couldn't, poachers got shot. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a case of, there was nothing to live off. The water systems were terrible in this country. The Thames is still probably the most polluted river in the world, I would go with. We didn't look after anything at that period in time. So it's almost impossible it would be a homeless tramp. It just doesn't
that's why I'd put it more like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I mean, the description of, again, the
Nowadays,
only
it's
vocals it made was grunting and howling. It was covered in massive hair, matted hair by the sounds of it as well, which is quite common. The will-o'-the-wisp lights,
yes,
swinging through the trees.
See, that would, you're talking about something like that, which, let's be honest, other than like Ninja Warrior, have you ever seen a human?
No.
It doesn't happen, does it?
Travelling through the undergrowth, the bracken and all that, just running through it like it didn't exist. That's impossible for us.
Yeah.
I mean, and then obviously scaling those slopes, which people couldn't follow. There's too much.
It's higher than 50.
There's too much there to say that was a... And again, you've got police seeing this. You've got these aristocrat women seeing this, so don't want to be named for that reason. So these are not people that are going to make shit up.
No.
They say the police seeing it, and then everybody else that was there, and golfers as well. So for me, that story tells me that since at least 1900, obviously I say we go back further than that, but at least 1900, these things were around. Are they around still today? I presume they are because things I've seen and etc. But
yeah, I would say they are.
Are they less or more abundant? I don't know. But this one seemed to be a single lone male. And again, how many times is that reported? More often than not.
Yeah.
All right, so The Howler of Barlow Woods. This is 1989 again. So we're going back again to this period. This was around 1989 when this happened to me. I was 17 at the time. I was just killing time and went into the woods for a look at all the pine trees. I'm just wandering around and everything was normal. I could hear the birds. Just a good day up to that point. I was about 100 yards in when all went quiet. Silence, not a sound, even the birds stopped. There was nobody around me. The woods went so quiet. I just stood there looking around. Then I heard the strangest sound, a loud whooping noise and a knocking sound from all around. Then everything went silent again. Again, I'm reading you this story, and this is from 1989. If you listen to Sasquatch Chronicles today, right?
It's all similar stuff.
You'll get exactly this description, probably. If you listen to Fiberstars, you're going to get this description. The woods going silent, the Oz effect. Jenny Randall's came up with that, I think it was. Where essentially you're just in this bubble. Nothing around you. Even the birds stop, crickets. People have even reported even the wind stopping. Although some accounts still say they could hear the rustling of the wind through the leaves, but essentially everything else stops. It's like all animals know there's serious predator in the area type thing.
Yeah.
And then you get again she's accompanying this. I'm saying she. I don't know if it's a she. It feels like a she, but anyway, you're getting this sound of this whooping sound, and then knocking. I mean, people go out now and do fucking wood knocks and shit. Still, I'm not, not saying that they do wood knocks, but we get this knocking associated with this whooping, associated with this Oz effect. So you've got all three of those things in this story, 1989, in the woods, in the Peak District. Just like that. Complete quiet. No birds, no car noises, nothing. No sounds of animals. Complete silence. I didn't see who or what made these noises, but I could tell I was being watched. I could feel it.
Yeah.
And people report that time and time again.
Yeah, it's
I'm looking around
feeling.
everywhere. but I can't see anybody at all. These woods were thick, the trees were large, I couldn't make out anybody or anything around me. I headed down towards a small stream and got down to look. I saw nothing. I laid there for ages. I did some knocks back and whoops. The whoops started again, louder this time. My cheeks were puckered now. I was so spooked. I looked back into the thick woodland and my eyes saw loads of shapes in the sunlight, but nothing I could pinpoint. Then a bump crack noise in the distance. I could not take any more, and I was off. I went back to my bike as fast as I could, and went out. I could feel I was being followed. Again, I was so scared. I kept turning around, but I could not see anything to make anything out. And then the quiet came. As I left the woods, I could hear the natural noises return. The birds, the streams, the noises. It was over, and I'd returned to the woods, but never passed close since then, basically. So he's been back to that woods, but not to that point. Again, 5, 6, 7 elements there, maybe, that you'll see in a modern-day encounter. Again, not seeing what it was, felt the presence, felt being watched, and then people report that. I've never experienced that in the woods. I do it all the time when I'm walking down the street, that way you feel like you're being watched. You look up at a bedroom window and someone watching you from an upstairs window. I mean, you just look straight at them, don't you? So, I feel all that all the time, but to that extent, in the woods, where I've had to leave the woods, no.
No, I've never had that, but like I said, that time when I was driving through the A46, you could feel that was looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's, interestingly, there's a film, I think it's on YouTube, so I think it's free to watch at the minute, and it's called Elusive, and it's a UK Bigfoot documentary. It's worth a watch, and it was put together by a guy called Chris Turner. And this account that I'm going to share to you now is an account that he was given by a witness. All right, so this is the witness in their words. I'm not sure if this makes it into the film or not. So anyway, my first experience with what has become known as the North East Derbyshire Moorlands Beast. Could think of something a bit more fucking snappy, but North East Derbyshire Moorlands Beast was in August of 1984. Alright, so we're coming a bit more modern here. I was bivvy camping with my cousin at a place called Blackmore. Bivvy camping, so that's just basically like a tent for your sleeping bag.
It's a one-man tent.
Yeah, you basically put your sleeping bag in a cocoon, and then you just sleep inside this cocoon, and that's it. Again, in the summertime, things like that, you could do that here. This place called Blackmore, it's just near Totley, outside Sheffield. I was about 14, and I was visiting the family in the school holidays. We set up in the tent and the camp, and it had been a fun day. And as the evening drew in, we all called it a night. I got into my tent around 11 p.m. and we both decided to try and get some sleep. I felt like no sooner had we settled down to sleep that we heard what I can only describe as the deep growl of what we were supposed must be a large apex predator. It may sound far-fetched, but that's what it sounded like at the time. It was not something we had heard before or could identify easily. We shook with fear instantly, and I struggled not to wet myself. Yep.
Brilliant.
We lay breathless as we listened to the heavy footfalls moving around the heather around us. Must be fucking place. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we go. After a while, we raised a bit of courage, and gripping our knives, we managed to get out and of the poncho shelter. A thick moorland mist had settled now, and we could barely see each other in it, let alone anything else. We kept searching the fog and hurriedly packed up, whilst all the time praying with all we could muster. Strange how suddenly you find the need for God. We went quickly as we could back down to the streetlights of Totley and home. Right, 2003, in July or August. To be honest, I'm second guessing the exact time, but it was hot weather, so it wasn't in the warmer months of the year. That must mean wasn't. Oh no, it was hot weather, so it must be in the warm. Yeah, so July, August, whatever. Anyway, I was now in my 30s, and I loved to camp wild. It's one of my hobbies. On that occasion I'm talking about, I had gone rough camping with my friend and his girlfriend. We were camping in the valley known as below Kinder, and that's where the picture that I'm going to put on the group is from. We had settled in a hollow within the tree line of a smaller wood below Kinder Downfall and the Mermaid's Pool. It was first light when my friend's girlfriend and I woken at the same time. We both had movement above us on the edge of the dell. Both of us saw what appeared to be a jet black figures moving back from the edge and away into the woods. There was 3 or 4 of them. I was certain I saw 3. The girlfriend said she had seen 4. We both woke up, my friend, packed up camp and went back down again. Goit Forest Whoops and Howls 2012. This encounter occurred in Goit, I'm going to say that, Goyt Forest in the Peak District. Alex spends a lot of time in the area and knows it well. Here we go. A few days ago, I had an interesting experience in my research location. I hadn't visited the location for about a month, and I was using my free time to search for deer antlers in the deer park not far from my house. Anyway, I decided to head over to the forest where there was a wild population of deer to see if I could find any antlers. In a few hours in, I'd descended down a steep slope into the forest that lies in a valley. I started making my way down to the bottom where I had crossed the river and made my way up a logging road. About 10 minutes after I had reached the logging road, I had walked a little further down it. I heard a series of very loud knocks, which sounded like they were coming from close to where I crossed the river only 10 minutes ago. There would be 5 knocks, a 10-second pause, and then another 5 knocks. The knocks were very dull sounding, so it was coming from something being hit on a large, thick tree. Didn't think much of it, assumed it was loggers or something. Anyway, this went on for about 7 minutes or so. I got curious and decided to check it out. As I reached the corner of the clear cut that would allow me to see the river where I crossed, and I suspected the knocking was coming from, it stopped abruptly. I started glassing the area with my binoculars. I couldn't see anyone or anything, I should say. I know that no rangers were out on duty that day, and there would be no logging as their vehicles and high-vis jackets were easy to identify. I just passed the area 10 minutes earlier, so I'm 100% positive nobody was there. So annoyed I didn't get a recording of the knocking, but I just assumed it was someone down there. Anyhow, I made my way down and quickly, and there was nobody there at all. There was no wind, and the knocks there had been always in a series of 5, and then approximately 10-second wait before another 5. I had noticed that the knocks started happening after I tripped and landed landed on a branch that had not fallen, which made a large cracking sound. Alright, so he made a crack before the crack started back.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it is. So his interpretation of that is that their cracks were answering his crack.
Yeah.
I like the word crack. Anyway, I actually went with my sister about 2 weeks ago and again heard the same knocking sound. No wind, wasn't a woodpecker, and I can rule out campers because I just walked past the area where the sounds were coming from about 20 minutes earlier. I did a couple of hand claps to see if I could get a response, but the knocking immediately stopped and we didn't hear anything again. Interesting for sure. And last week I went there at night and heard exact same mumbling sound that I had heard a couple of months ago, coming from 20 feet in the tree line at the side of the logging road I was walking on. I then heard something large run through the bushes as I could hear the limbs breaking. Could have been a deer, but it came from the same area where I'd heard that mumbling sound. Again, you know, knocking, this murmuring. Some people call it the samurai chat, don't they?
Yeah.
That. When it's off in the distance like that. These log cracks, breaks. You know, I've had that happen to me a couple of occasions now, where I've got out in the middle of, you know, late at night, gone for a piss, whatever, pulled the van over,
and you hear stuff.
and you hear a break, like it, you know, and you know a little, you know, when you stand on a little stick, you get that, like a pencil size stick, you know that.
Yeah.
This is something that's at least, I'm going to say, 2-inch diameter, something like, you know. It's a big crack.
It's a proper noise.
It's designed to fucking make sure you hear it, do you know what I mean? It's not whatever's doing it. And again, I've never seen what's doing it, just like this person here, but it's designed to make sure you're fucking aware it's there. And again, I've spoke to various different people who have stopped on these similar places on night times and had exactly the same thing happen to them. Mm-hmm. And again, as soon as it happens, you get this sense of, I'm not welcome here. You get that sense. I've got to leave, you know what I mean? The first time I heard it, obviously I was a bit more intrigued. I actually went over to the edge. I was on like I won't say a cliff, but it was like it was raised. The area I was actually raised, and there was a field slightly below me, only about 6 foot or so. And that's just the way the road was. And when I heard that thing, I actually went over to the edge of that ledge just to see what it was, because I was intrigued.
Yeah.
I didn't get a sense of worry at that point, but then after I couldn't see anything, that's when it started to dawn on me that, because I made a noise, because I thought if it was a small animal that had stood on a log or it'd run off sort of thing, but nothing moved, and I don't know, it seemed odd, very odd. And then the second time that happened to me, I was acutely aware that they weren't supposed to be happening. Logs aren't supposed to snap in the night. And I was obviously camping in Wolsey Woods when that tree was pushed over. They're still telling me it was pushed over. I mean, there was no wind, nothing, and this tree just came down and landed within feet of our camp. I know trees fall in the woods all the time, but I say that, but it is pretty rare that a tree falls down. You know, when there's no wind and stuff like that, it is pretty rare.
It is very rare.
Do you know what I mean? But we was there. And everyone that was there was a few of us there, and everybody, when that tree came down, nobody thought it was natural. Nobody said anything, but everybody scrambled to one side of the camp and was waiting for something to come in that doorway. Because we'd built this camp, it was basically woven branches to make like a shelter. It had no roof, it was just sides. But we'd made it so there was one way in, like a door. The idea being that the police couldn't find us. Because you weren't supposed to camp, or you're not supposed to camp here. You're not supposed to have a fire anyway, it's illegal in the UK. But
weird that. I find that really weird.
Forest fires, isn't it? People can't be trusted. I mean, I was at Fort Abbey the other day, and some fucking bell ends put one of those, you know, them barbecues, them where you put the firelighters in light.
Yeah.
I can't what you call them.
instant barbecues.
Yeah, whatever they are. Fucking makes all your food taste like shit.
Yeah, they do.
Some knobheads put one of them on a plastic table. That's the mentality of people.
That's really stupid.
And that's why you just can't trust them. Do you know what I mean? It's just fucking stupid. I'm pretty sure those things come with legs.
My mum, saying that, my mum
off the
actually
ground.
did exactly that on a glass table and shattered the glass.
Well, there you go.
And I was like, well, she called me and told me what she'd done. I went, you're a fucking idiot.
And that's where you get your intelligence from.
Yeah, it must be.
But yeah, I mean, there's a couple more stories here, brief stories, but I'll go into them on another occasion, I suppose.
Yeah, save them for another episode. We might actually get some out now.
Yeah, because...
they're interesting, though. Like I said, I find it, like you were saying a few weeks ago, the British Bigfoot, it's an untapped market because people just assume Bigfoot is American. You know, and maybe that is because Americans, as a general rule, I mean, they're very different people to what we are, but I mean, maybe it comes down to the fact that maybe they don't care what other people think, or they're not afraid of telling a story that might make them look ridiculous.
I would say they're very similar to us, but I think the taboo, just like the taboo of UFOs has been lifted now. You know, pilots are allowed to talk about it now. In fact, pilots are encouraged to talk about it now. They're not allowed to talk about the jabby wabby and what that does to them, but they're allowed to talk about UFOs. I mean, British Airways actually pilots, their WhatsApp group was called Dying Breed. That's what they would call themselves. Anyway, but so they're not allowed to talk about that, but they are allowed to talk about UFOs. Fighter pilots, etc., are allowed to talk about it now.
Yeah.
So the taboo of
the veil's been lifted.
Yeah, that has been. It's common. Like I say now, if you'd said 10 years ago, you know, UFO, if the government came out and said UFO is real, most people would be like, half of them wouldn't believe it, half of them would believe it. I'd say now, if the government was to come out, which all right they are doing, but if the government was to come out and say officially they exist and that, I think most people would say, yeah, no. You know, that's how it's changed in 10 years. They've gone from sort of like 50% saying bullshit, even if the government said it was real, to nowadays, if they said it, I think most 90% of people would say, yeah, we already know they're real.
You'd still get a couple, and we know. A couple at work that are just like, nah, fuck off, that didn't happen, fuck off.
Yeah, of course you would, but majority of people now would be inclined to believe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know what you think of those stories. Again, most people, probably nowadays, most people are aware that the UK has its own Bigfoot and Dogman werewolf going on. Like I said before, we will talk about Wolflands because it's really well done. It would make people question, even skeptics. I think there's enough in there to make people ask the question, I would say. And again, we'll do a detailed thing in that.
Yeah.
But if you want to help us out, I've come up with a little way you can help us out if you're so intrigued or you'd like to. Obviously, with the shows, getting the shows out, etc., we do need all the help we can get, and if you can benefit from it, then that's a bonus. So obviously we've started the Barbarian Breed t-shirts and
epic t-shirts.
Yeah, and there's something on there for everyone. If you go on the website, and please do, I'll include it in the show notes, but it's essentially just www.barbarianbreed.com. That's BARBARIANBREED, Barbarian Breed. You go on there, check out what we've got. There's something for everyone. If you see something you like, you want it in a different colour, you want a certain logo on the front, a certain logo on the back, or there's a logo that's on the front now but you'd like it on the back, that sort of shit, then just email me. I think there's a live chat you can use on there, but obviously you've got my email, you've got me on Facebook, so message me, and if as soon as I get that message, within 10 minutes or so, I can pretty much, depending where I am, I can pretty much do that for you. It's not a problem. But as podcast listeners, we wanted to give you a thank you, really. Obviously, by doing this, you're helping us out massively, ridiculously well. It really would make our dreams come true, let's say like that, if you could help us out. If the majority of you could go out there and get a t-shirt, then it would be fucking unreal, absolutely. But we want to make it easier for you. If you use the code podcast, you can get £5 off your order. So, you know, depending where you are, that basically covers your shipping out, essentially. So, yeah, check it out. Use the word podcast in the code podcast, and then that's just for you guys who listen to the show, really. Nobody else gets that. So
no, that's not on the websites or anything, that code. So
that's exclusive to you. And like I say, £5, isn't it? But yeah, go and check out the website. It is in the description. If you want to catch us, if you want to get another way to get it, obviously you can join us on Facebook. You can find it there. But it is Barbarian, as in the Vikings, barbarianbreed.com. Check it out. Get £5 off your order with the code podcast, and that helps us massive. Well,
it helps everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, more than you can fucking believe. Believe me. So there you go, and you get yourself a t-shirt. And if you like the t-shirt, then you can go and get more, because I'm pretty confident that once you buy one, you will get. I'm wearing one now.
Everyone has, to be fair. I mean, we haven't had a huge amount of orders, but the orders we have had have ordered more than once. Everyone
that's ordered has ordered again.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So, which that tells you something about the quality of the t-shirt.
Yeah, they are good quality.
I think, yeah, I say, give us a chance. You know, check out the website. That's the first thing you could do, obviously, and then give us a chance. Get something. You can pay any. You know, all ways are accepted. I'm pretty sure. If there isn't, then let me know. But I'm pretty sure you can use PayPal, Visa, Mastercard, fucking American, fucking whatever. So there's no issues there, and it is. Pretty much from placement of order, you're talking about probably less than a day before it's in the post.
Yeah.
So,
pretty quick.
You know, I know even if it's coming overseas, it doesn't take that long. And people that have bought one from America can vouch for that. So, yeah, so check us out, barbarianbreed.com. It helps this show. And that is realistically the way to help the show. We do have other ways.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the way you get something.
That's the best way, because you're going to get something out of it as well. It's not just chucking, but you think most, for example, Patreon users pay, say, $10 a month, and they'll do that for 5 or 6 months, and realistically you don't really get anything out of that. All right, you don't get the adverts on your podcast, but you're not getting a huge amount out of that. But if you was to take that $50 you'd spend in 5 months and buy 2 t-shirts, you're getting something out of it.
Yeah, you're still getting the shows.
You're still getting the shows, and you're getting...
Nothing's changing here. You're just helping us out.
You're helping us out, and you're getting... you're still paying...
And we massively, massively fucking appreciate that. And anybody that's gone and checked the website out, even if you've gone and checked the website and there was nothing there that you liked, then thank you very much just checking the website out. That's fucking marvellous.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I think pretty much everybody that listens to this show will find something on there you like, because it's no bullshit.
I agree.
You know, I said on the thing, it's 100% cotton, 100% no bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing the Flash top today. Flash.
I've got my new one here somewhere as well.
Yeah, Shiver Me Timbers. Isn't it?
It's a pirate one.
I'll tell you what, we'll put a picture up on the website. Not on the website.
Facebook.
On the Facebook, yeah. Of us in our new tops today, so you can see them.
Yeah.
In the flesh, so to speak.
But thanks for listening.
Well, thank you very much, and we will see you on the other side.
Well, they've gone. No, just for now. It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.